birthright citizenship executive order. You're looking live at the Supreme Court right now. The outcome is a victory for the Trump administration. For more on exactly what this means, we're joined now by Professor David Levine from UC Law, San Francisco. David, this is something we've been diving into since it came out just about 20 minutes ago. Tell us what this means and what this doesn't mean for birthright citizenship.
Okay, sure, Andre. Well, it's a very complicated opinion, very long opinion, and if my count is right, 6 justices felt the need to weigh in on this particular issue. So it is a little bit complicated. But what the administration did is they asked the Supreme Court to take up the sort of abstract issue of, can federal district judges issue an opinion that has what we call nationwide impact, meaning would it bind the federal government everywhere, or would an opinion only protect the individual plaintiffs or the particular plaintiffs in a particular case? And that's what Justice Barrett did. She said the general rule, which absolutely applies, is where we're going to go, and we don't have an exception for these kinds of cases. So this tool, if you think of it as a toolbox, right? So what the Supreme Court said is, district court judges, you thought you had a tool in the toolbox, you don't. That doesn't mean you don't have other tools in the toolbox, but you don't have this one. Now, it happens that the context, of course, in these cases is birthright citizenship. So the cases will all go back to these district courts. I think there's 3 of these cases across the country, and the judges will have to change what they wrote in line with this opinion. And then what then will happen, and what the dissents really were focused on, is what about people who aren't protected by these cases? What happens to all of those people? Are we going to need cases in every one of our 94 federal district courts? And what happens when those opinions, when one court says something and another court says something else? What about that chaos? But Justice Barrett said, well, that's the general rule and we'll live with it. Now, there's answers, but right now, these lucky district court judges are going to have to sort this out when the cases come back to them in a few days.
All right, let's get to it. Before I begin, let's please make sure we are sharing, liking, and subscribing to this channel. Let people know about this channel, spread this video around, and also leave a comment below. I'm always happy to respond. Leave a like, something, but I will try to respond to everybody. If we could do this, and please help me reach 500. I'm at 102 right now, and I want to reach 500. So far, reaching 102 was really good, but I would really like to hit 500 so that way I can do a lot more. For my subscribers, we can chat live, do a lot of debates, and so forth. And so I really could use your help in this. And I know you got my back, just like I got yours. So please, just help me out, and we all should be good. Today was a great day for President Trump and his administration. Today was the Supreme Court ruling came down, and the Supreme Court ruled at a 6-3 to limit the power of lower federal courts to issue nationwide injunctions. So particularly in response to the President Trump's executive orders aimed at ending birthright citizenship for children born in the U.S. to parents who are undocumented or on temporary visas. Very important. I've said this from the beginning that this doesn't sound right. Like you could just illegally cross the border, give birth, and then say, oh, I got to be here because I have a kid who's born on U.S. soil. And Democrats took that saying in the Constitution, and they used it to their advantage to say anybody that comes across this border and give birth, they're automatically U.S. citizenship and U.S. citizens. And that's totally wrong. So I'm going to talk about why this ruling is significant. The ruling doesn't decide the constitutionality of Trump's executive order itself. That's still being litigated in lower courts. So, of course, I think they should hear something in October. Instead, it removes the nationwide blocks that have been placed on the order, allowing the administration to begin implementing it in jurisdictions not directly involved in ongoing lawsuits. The decision effectively narrows the scope of judicial checks on executive power, which Trump and his allies have long criticized as judicial overreach. They are so 100% right. So 100% right. Trump called it a monumental victory for the Constitution, the separation of powers, and the rule of law, and it's being celebrated by conservatives as a restoration of executive authority that had been, in their view, stifled by activist judges. I don't get it. When these liberal judges get into power, and I'm not going to say all liberals, because maybe there's some conservatives that do the same thing too. But when they get into power, for some reason, they just like to hold this country back. When you have a president who's trying to make America great again, and you have these liberal judges, which I know they speak outside the box and so forth, but when they start doing things, then they're doing things like this, then it causes a problem for everybody else, and especially the system, because now the Constitution is not being interpreted the way it's supposed to be. And now we're allowing rogue judges to basically just shut down any decision or any executive order that the president of the United States make. And that is 100% wrong. And I'm so glad that the Supreme Court on a 6-3 decision made the right choice. President Trump said something about birthright citizenship, and he said it was meant for children of slaves. And I had to do some research, and this is what I found out, that yes, it is true. The 14th Amendment, ratified in 1868, was explicitly designed to grant citizenship to formerly enslaved people and their descendants. The key clause reads, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. Now, listen to this. This was a direct response to the Dred Scott decision of 1857, which had infamously ruled that black people could not be citizens. The 14th Amendment overturned that precedent and ensured that black Americans born on U.S. soil would be recognized as full citizens. But now let me go on. However, the phrase subject to the jurisdiction thereof has been the source of modern legal debate. Some argue it was never meant to apply to children of non-citizens or undocumented immigrants. Others point to the 1898 Supreme Court case United States versus Wong Kim Ark, which upheld birthright citizenship for children of legal immigrants as evidence that the principle has long been interpreted broadly. Trump and his legal team have leaned into the originalist argument that the 14th Amendment was intended solely for the children of freed slaves, not for modern immigration context. Whether that interpretation holds up in court remains to be seen. I don't know. I have a strong feeling it's going to hold up because, like I said, number one, slaves were brought to this country. And I'm not going to say they were kidnapped because they weren't. They were traded, but they got on a boat. They were brought to that country, and then they were sold as property. And then the slaves had children, which most of the slave masters wanted them to have children because they were looking for strong men to continue the work. So these children were born on this soil, no fault of their own, because they were brought here. So now that they're free, you can't tell them that they can't be citizens, because for the simple fact is they came here, not on their own, I'm not going to say not on their own free will, I'm going to say with no knowledge of what they were getting themselves into. They came here and then they became slaves or properties, and then they had children. And so those children had the right to be U.S. citizens. This is different, and liberals are being very disingenuous. This is very different. These are illegal immigrants crossing the border illegally. They're not being forced to come here. They're coming over here illegally and then purposefully having children so that they can say, I'm a U.S. citizen. That is wrong. And I think that when all is said and done, it's gonna follow what the Trump administration say, that the birthright citizenship was meant for the children of slaves. So I'm pretty excited about what's happening. This is, once again, Trump is just winning. I don't know how many times I got to keep saying win, 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 but he is just winning for America. And we're going to now start seeing law and order, and a lot of his executive orders that these district judges was trying to prevent or hold back are now, and I think it's going to be done in 30 days or on the 31st day. These executive orders can now be implemented, and thank goodness for that. And I can't wait to see more victories, because look at what happened with the S&P 500. It hit a record today. And I'm going to definitely have to look and see where the numbers are at. But so far, the stock market has reacted in a positive way, especially after the strikes in Iran, which took out their nuclear sites. And nobody knew what was going to happen, if we were going to go into World War III or something. But yet Iran and Israel reached a cease agreement deal, and the stock market is taking a positive reaction to that. So this is great news. This is something that America needs. We need that jolt in us, because we need to know that we can continue winning. And when you see somebody like President Trump, who doesn't quit, he doesn't quit. He's constantly fighting every day. And when he's winning, you can feel the energy, the excitement. And I just love it. This is why I love this president. Let's keep winning.
The liberals are crying again. Part affinity. Looks like our boy Trump keeps on winning, and the liberals keep on crying. All day I've been seeing liberals and they outrage about the Supreme Court overruling in Trump's favor yet again. Go figure. And it got me thinking. It was just not even a year ago, these people were like convinced that this man was going to prison. Like, you could go on any platform, and these motherfuckers were convinced this guy. And you know what it is? It's because these Democrat politicians lie to their supporters, feed them bullshit. The Democrats have to be in a room somewhere and just laughing how easily their supporters are being able to be manipulated at any point. Like, I feel sorry for these liberals. And you know what it is? These motherfuckers don't eat meat. That's what it is. So if you decide to go vegetarian, just know your cylinders ain't gonna be popping off all at the same time. Eat your motherfucking meat.
Wait, did the Supreme Court just end birthright citizenship in the United States of America? On June 27th, 2025, the Supreme Court issued a 6-3 ruling in the Trump v. Casa case that could very well pave the way to Donald Trump ending birthright citizenship in the United States. Now, while this does not end birthright citizenship in itself, it does open the way for Trump to do what he needs to do to make that happen. Earlier in 2025, if you recall, Donald Trump issued an executive order that was aimed at ending birthright citizenship to those born to illegal immigrants or undocumented immigrants in the United States of America. And of course, in lawfare fashion, the lower federal courts, the inferior courts, stepped right in to put an injunction that blocked that nationwide. And while in this particular case, it does not say that Trump has the constitutional right to end this, it does say that these lower inferior courts are overreaching, out of hand, out of pocket, and playing lawfare. So what this ruling does do is it puts a stop to them making blanket injunctions and forces the people that are actually affected by this to bring the case to the Supreme Court. Trump's executive order that he signed earlier this year is still on hold and waiting to be heard. But if things work out, he will get an ultimate green light to do what he needs to do. And while he will be faced with much adversity in trying to essentially neuter the 14th Amendment, this is a America first move. And I'm excited. So fingers crossed, and I'll keep you guys updated. And if you'd comment, share, repost this, and tell me what your thoughts are.
So if you notice, a lot of people are not happy with this decision. I mean, I'm happy, but the liberals, of course, and this is the excuse they use. They're saying, well, this decision gives the president of the United States even more power, since they want to call him the king and all this other stuff. But you have to realize why President Trump had to take this step is because these liberals or states kept filing these lawsuits against the president's executive order, and then the judges blocked it. Like, they just put a halt to his executive orders, things that they cannot do. It just baffles me that liberals would fool their supporters and make them think that this president has overstepped his bounds. And that's not the case, because if it's the other way around, then liberals will stay quiet. I promise you that. So that he didn't overstep his bounds. He's doing everything he's supposed to. And most of them are also talking about the 14th Amendment. But what I once again, I know I said this earlier, but I have to say this again. Slaves who came over to this country, they came over here and were sold as property. Okay? They then had children. Those children had the right to become citizens. And if you look at it, it makes total sense. It makes total sense of why that happened. When it comes to Wong Kim Ark, I was trying to remember his name, but Wong Kim Ark, his parents lived in the United States and they came there legally, whereby he was born. And at the time, they were not going to give him citizenship, but he argued his case that his parents was in that country legally. They were there legally, they were resident, they lived there, and he was born, which made him a citizen. That makes sense. My parents came here and they came to this country legally. They didn't have to sneak across when they came in legally. They had to take shots. They had to do all this stuff to see if they weren't bringing diseases or anything like that. He came in, I was born. It makes me a natural born citizen. When you're an illegal immigrant and you're crossing that border, when you cross that border illegally, it is against the law to cross this into America illegally. You haven't been checked. You might be coming over here with whooping cough or whatever kind of bacterial disease. It's something. You could be bringing anything over here. You need to be checked. So that's why there's a process. And plus, you got to pay some money. It's pretty expensive to come into the United States, just like it's expensive to go to other countries. We want to see what kind of skill sets you have, because America could use good people with excellent skill sets in different fields. But when you come here legally, you cannot then think that your child is a citizen, because that Wong Kim Ark case was not, that they're not the same. They're just not the same. And it baffles me that people would sit there and argue this case when any lawyer, a damn first year lawyer should be able to tell you that the cases, they're not the same. They're not the same. You want to make illegal immigrants sneak across the border and then say that kids can be American citizens? Then change the law. But until then, no, they are not. Their parents are legal. It doesn't give their kids the right to be citizens. It baffles me that we're arguing this stuff. But there are people out there that's arguing this, and there's people out there that think that, well, now the president have all this power through executive action. He has the right to do executive orders. That's his privilege, and it can only be on certain things, especially when it comes to protecting America and things like that. But he has that right. So this thing about more power. It's just a scare tactic to scare you into thinking that this president is going to be omnipotent and we're going to be just sitting there scared out of our wits. Okay, it's sad, really sad.
Breaking fucking news, the Supreme Court has just ruled 6-3 in Trump's favor for ending birthright citizenship in the United States. This has been one of Trump's most controversial policies, as it blatantly does go against the Constitution, specifically the 14th Amendment, which very clearly states anyone born in the United States is a United States citizen. Now, the legality of things is quite tricky because the Supreme Court said that a judge cannot issue a nationwide injunction, even if what the president is doing is unconstitutional. And to make things even more suspect, so to speak, the judges didn't rule whether it violates the 14th Amendment, which they know it does. They just said, yeah, we're going to rule in his favor. The courts can't issue an injunction to stop it. This is huge and developing news. I'll give you an update when I know more. Stay tuned.
So boom, the court ruled in favor of Donald Trump when they were questioning on whether he could eliminate birthright citizenship. So the actual question is, can a district judge, like a judge in a state, block executive orders? And they ruled one single district judge in a state cannot do that to a president's executive orders. So when he's talking about birthright citizenship, eliminating that, he can pursue that. Now, pause, because he's not taking it from the Constitution completely, but now he's able to enact different guidelines to have a different interpretation of what birthright citizenship means and who gets that. So, listen, it hasn't been taken away yet, but what is it going to take for us? Because they impeached the Korean president for way less. And mind you, we just had the impeachment with Donald Trump and 134 Democrats voted no. What the fuck is up? I'm not fighting on the front lines for another country, but I'll fight on the front lines for my own country. And we're going to fucking label it something else, because the United States of America stands for imperialism globally. And I'm not standing for that shit. So rise the fuck up, ho. We need a revolution.
So let's talk about today's ruling with the Supreme Court. And when I say the Supreme Court, I really mean the right-wing extreme part of the court, right? I don't mean the three other people. I'm talking about, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Barrett, and them old heads, Alito, and, and Clarence. So the ruling today says that the lower federal courts cannot block or do an injunction that is nationwide, right? Which is funny to me because in the first term, if you recall, that federal judge, that syphilitic Sid, federally appointed judge in Amarillo, Texas, did an entire injunction to block the ability for women to get misfisferone. I can't pronounce it, but you know what I'm talking about. The medicine that'll help you void, if you've had a miscarriage or whatever. So they didn't have a problem with that. But okay, I digress. So anyway, in doing so, it gives syphilitic Sid and his administration the ability to now go back and try to implement the executive order that stops birthright citizenship. Okay. So basically what that executive order says is that if you are a child born to an undocumented person, even somebody that has a visa but is not a permanent resident here, they're going to take away your birthright citizenship, right? Okay. But we know that with Stephen Miller, the gargoyle, the bald-headed gargoyle, Beelzebub at the helm, this is really more targeted towards black and brown people in this country. I just have a question. What about all them Russians in Miami, in South Beach, that do that tourism birthing, right? They come over here towards the very end of the pregnancy, stay here, have their babies who are American citizens, right? Because they're born here. I just want to know, are you going to add them to the list, right? No hate. I'm just saying, are you going to add them to the list? There are a lot of wealthy Asians, crazy rich, by the way, that come over here and do the exact same thing. Are they going to be on that list? And while we at it, can't we talk about your wife? Because wasn't that her status? So that means your son, Barron, wouldn't he fall into that? I need, these are questions I need answered. J.D. Vance, his wife, she was birthed here. Her parents were, working through the process to become naturalized citizens. I just want to understand, because are we going to do it across the board, or are we being racist? I mean, of course, the racism is the point, right? We get that. I'm just saying, I need somebody to tell me, because I feel like if that's the case, Barron need to be the first one to go. And Melanie, whatever the hell her name is, anywho. So yeah, let's talk about it. Let's really, really talk about it.
With the Supreme Court case on nationwide injunctions having been decided, the President of the United States is now assuredly a king. The Republican Party has been pushing for about 30 years now something called unitary executive theory. This literally means they think that nothing the president does can be challenged by anybody. They don't believe in checks and balances. The Supreme Court cases, and we're going to get into exactly what they mean. Let's talk about what makes the president a king. The president can't be charged with a crime under any circumstances, and nothing the president does is illegal. The president has full pardon power for federal crimes and enforcement power. The 6-3 ruling on nationwide injunctions means federal judges can't block unconstitutional executive orders for the entire nation. If the president can't do anything illegal and can't be charged with a crime, then that means the president could direct someone to commit a crime. Let's say he tells Pete Hegseth to shoot at protesters. Pete Hegseth does it. The president quietly issues a pardon for Pete Hegseth. Now, Pete Hegseth can't be charged with a crime for committing a crime. Okay? And now, without checks and balances, so a federal judge cannot issue a ruling saying this is unconstitutional in birthright citizenship. You have to be a large class action lawsuit, which you would have to sign into, which means people can just be picked off the street who are American citizens and deported before they ever even have a chance to get an attorney, because the Supreme Court also okayed rapid deportation to countries people aren't from. The bottom line here is the government has collapsed and the president is a king. The bad news for MAGA is the pendulum always swings back, and it never swings back to the middle. George W. Bush. The reaction to George W. Bush was Obama. The reaction to Obama was Trump. What do you think if Trump continues down this horrible, dictatorial, unconstitutional path? What do you think the response is going to be? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will be the president of the United States, and she will have all the same power that Trump has now. And think about what that could mean for your life as you champion Trump now.
Oh God, these people, I swear to God, they really get on my nerves. I swear these liberals are just, you ever sat there and just listen to them and they never want to listen to you because they swear to God they know what they're talking about, and they're so wrong. It just irritates me. So the lady on the one that's talking about immigration, first of all, she don't even realize that illegal immigration affects Black Americans, especially Black men, because we don't get the high executive power positions. They for some reason we don't get that. We get the back of the kitchen, the lower end truck driving jobs and so forth, or working in the warehouse, because like I stated in some of my videos, we love to shoot and kill, and we have a lot of felonies, child support, things like that. So we lose our driver's license, we lose our passports, we lose whatever right we have to survive and to take care of our family, because the government took that position. So you got these stupid people that would get up there and say, that this president and the immigration and don't know what they're talking about. And I've already stated how the law was intended for. It was intended for slaves. That's how it started off, and for people that that came to this country legally, not for the illegals to come in here and try that, having anchor babies. That's a no-go, and they should not have that right. They should not. But the guy, the last one, was talking about a king. What did he say? He said that the president can't be charged for anything, and we just made it clear that the president can be charged for something if it's not government official. If it's not government official business, that means if the president got up, walked outside, and blew somebody's head off, he can be charged. Okay? That's where no one's above the law come in at. Not like, you talk about James in New York, Letitia James, these people that's just breaking the law deliberately in your face, and they're quiet. But they want to talk about this king stuff, and President Trump can tell Pete Hegseth, and these are very stupid people. I'm sorry, they're very stupid people that really need to stop letting their emotions get the best of them, and start looking at facts. Okay, because when you go with facts, then you can start coming up with some better answers. Okay, and then some of the dumb stuff I'm listening to, woosah, that's what I gotta do. Woosah, just relax, because liberals will make you want to jump off a cliff, because they're so ignorant to facts, man. Like, I don't get them. I don't get it. And it just baffles me how they continue to speak this junk. This president is 100% right on birthright citizenship. Do it the right way. Anyway, okay, I'm good now. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share this channel, because today is a great day for not only American citizens, but America. Okay? This country's coming back roaring hard. The stock market looks beautiful. The people are winning. President Trump is winning. His administration is winning. And we can only get better and stronger. So let's goes out to President Trump. Okay? This guy is a real American hero, and he's doing everything the right way. And this country's going to win for everybody. Okay? Not just for what they like to say, the rich and everything. Even though Democrats have all the billionaires, they have Wall Street. These guys have all the rich people, but then they continue to say, oh, for the ultra rich. No, you guys have the ultra rich. And that kills me. But we are winning. We are winning, and we're going to continue winning. And business is going to grow, and we're going to be successful. This is going to be a successful country. And if people work hard, have ambitions and goals, and do the right thing, just put your mind to it, and you'll be a winner. I promise you that. Anyway, guys, thank you. I really had a great time talking about this, and I'll see you soon. Peace.